Welcome back to Blue Collar Speed and Repair. Working on our van truck abomination thing. Last time you saw this, I think I just kind of went through the brakes and whatnot, kind of made it mobile. Got the engine running, it was stuck. If you haven't watched that video, go back and watch those. It's actually two separate videos, but the wiring in this thing is absolutely atrocious. Can you hand me this light, please? So the wiring has obviously been butchered and butchered and butchered over the years. No idea what that goes to. No idea what that goes to. You can see it's all a spaghetti mess up here. That's just hanging there. We have just a starter button hooked up. We had just a coil wire, jumper wire hooked up just to make it run. This should be headlights. I believe that's wipers. No idea what any of these switches do. None of the gauges work, that kind of stuff. So the goal is to go through the wiring on this completely. And I'm not too concerned with like radio and that kind of stuff, but I'd like to be able to we got an ignition switch for it. Get the ignition switch working, engine wired up, lights all wired up, gauges kind of wired up. We're working towards the goal of actually being able to drive this. So it's going to be a little bit tricky because there's obviously tail and brake lights on the back of the vehicle. And then I'm assuming those are tail and maybe brake lights on the wing. And then the backup lights are actually in the cab up here. So it'll be a little interesting to figure that stuff out. And then she's actually hunting for replacement cab lights right now. I'm sure those weren't factory, so we got to figure out how to wire those in and see what we can do there. Part numbers? Perfect. So I bought a Painless universal kit. These aren't too bad. I think it was $250 or $260. And then a Painless universal ignition switch. I think that was like 15 bucks. Wiring kit came with actually quite a bit of stuff. Wire ties, connectors, heat shrink, some connectors, terminal ends, a bunch of heat shrink stuff, a main fuse and alternator wiring, and this spaghetti. I kind of laid these out, separate them a little bit. So that's tail light, and I don't know why it's got a dome wire in it too. I'll have to get into that. This one is all dash. And then this one is engine and front lights, which normally the engine's at the front of the vehicle, so you would wire all that stuff together. This engine's in the middle, obviously, so we'll have to do some trickery there and figure this out. So I know it looks a little complicated. There's a lot going on here, a lot of wires, but we're going to try to lay them out and put them in a direction, put them in an area where they go, and just connect them one by one until we get it wired in. I think I'm going to start with pulling this dash out. So we can get to the wiring behind here. So we'll get this stuff kind of out and out of the way, so we can get to the back of everything and probably just start cutting old wiring out. We get some tools out and we'll get started. All right, get this dash out. We'll start with, see if I can disconnect this speedo cable. Kind of nice that there's dash is really small. Okay. And then a billion screws. This doesn't seem to fit.
Why there's screws there, and there's also screws.
I don't know. I don't know if we have to pull those out or not. I haven't got that far. I don't know what this bracket is for either. Some other gauge to go with all the gauges, I guess. Yeah, so that's another thing we got to figure out. I don't know what this driving computer is or what it even does, and then I'm assuming that's an aftermarket wiper delay unit. I'm hoping we can run the wires to the wiper switch, you know, as far as power and ground, and then the wires to the wiper motor, and this stuff just leave. We'll see how that goes.
Babies, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
Seem to be in pieces.
All right, well, this isn't moving, and I don't want to break it. There's broken glass in there. There's something underneath.
It almost looks like this bottom piece is mounted through it.
No, this should be separate here. I don't know how this works. Or it could just be stuck from years and years of sitting.
Stuck under here for sure.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it's connected on the bottom somehow. Is that light?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It looks like there's a bracket or something right here.
It looks like that just holds the gauge in. Oh,
that's the peel and stuff wallpaper.
It could be, but the screws are on the outside here, so I'd imagine. Alright, got it free. It was just wedged in there. I lost this screw that I took out. Big surprise. Alright. Probably should have brought a pair of dikes with me, but I didn't. Well, the other problem is, it's not. This is going to be a nightmare to figure out. I am not looking forward to this.
Are we going to have to trace all the wires as we go?
I think so, pretty much.
Dikes might not be the best idea right now.
Why?
Well, we got to trace them. Do you want some tape to label them as you go?
I think we're going to have to kind of label things. Figure out these light bulbs. Oh, what a mess. All right. What do we got? What do we see? Kind of aftermarket tack. That is going to be interesting to... That one's a light. Where's that one go? That one's a ground. Okay. So one of these has to be ignition. And the other one's got to be the tack signal. Yep. All right. I'm going to start kind of cutting and labeling stuff. Here, let me see that. So for instance, this is the little aftermarket tack that's in here. This white wire goes over, I don't know how well it shows up, but tees into the dash light. So that's obviously a dash light wire. This one here goes down to a ground there. The red wire goes down. It used to go into the ignition switch. And the green goes down and runs into a harness that goes to the engine. I'm assuming it's probably this green wire here to get your tech signal. So I'm gonna, what? So I'm just gonna start cutting wires and labeling them and trying to wrap my head around this. All right, went ahead and hooked up a jumper box real quick, kind of trace some things. So here's what I'm doing. We'll get to that in a second. So this is the tack. So that's the tack wire. So I put a T, G for ground, L for lights, and then an I for ignition. And those keep doing that.
I wonder if that has something to do
This
with
is, oh.
that was on.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. So let's turn that down.
Oh.
Turn it off. Back on. Okay. Off. But then it still works with the regular wiper switch. So a low and a high. Off. Okay. We also got headlights.
Yay.
I was trying to figure out, I believe, so these three wires go, or lights go to the back of the Speedo. That one's illumination, obviously. I believe one of these is left turn signal and one's right turn signal. So the whole point was to hook up a jumper box and see what light came on or what had power when I play with the turn signal switch. But turn signal switch doesn't seem to work, and it does that. So apparently we're going to need to do some turn signal switch wiring as well.
Your horn doesn't honk when you turn.
So again, all this stuff is really spaghettied. We're going to go all new. I'm going to have to look up see if I can find a factory schematic, figure out what these are. Like I said, I believe one's left and one's right turn signal, and see if I can get this stuff traced out. All right, got our instrument cluster out. Labeled all the tack stuff. This stuff I didn't worry too much about. It's all pretty much like dummy lights: cold, generator, brake light, oil pressure light, and hot. The only one I'm really concerned about is the fuel gauge, and we'll have to figure out, I'm assuming that one is illumination for the gauge itself. Not too worried about the dummy lights. It does have actual gauges in it that we'll probably be replacing at some point. I'm assuming that alternator gauge doesn't work, and I'm assuming that temperature gauge probably doesn't work. Might get lucky and have oil pressure. She's going to start working on pulling that out. I'm just going to start cutting some of these zip ties and some of this crap out. Just start dissecting. This thing's been so hacked up over the years, it's hard to say what's what. We could probably go through all this stuff and get it figured out, but what's the point, really? Like I said, the whole harness kit was a couple $100. I'm not overly concerned with it.
Part of the problem is that there's a lot of stripped wires and broken wires.
Yeah. So like this is the ignition switch harness. You see it's butchered, absolutely butchered. So I mean, it's worth just ripping that crap out of here and getting rid of it. I don't know what that is. No idea. But it's got a mile of wire hooked to it. Now what? Also don't know what all these switches go to. What are you taking the switches out for?
No, because I thought we might have to loosen them in order to get
Shouldn't have to.
Well, we're gonna have to take off that wiper bezel, right?
Wiper bezel.
No?
I don't know. I think they're just attached to this plate. You got another screw right here.
Oh, I didn't see it on the other side of the switch. Ouch.
Well, there's what we're working with.
Scotch locks.
Scotch locks everywhere. Who knows what this used to go to. That's wiper switch. Cigarette lighter.
We have 3 of those.
Headlight switch. Alright.
Where did that go to?
Well, I don't know that.
It goes to whatever this top switch was. Oh, the top 2 switches.
Alright, I'm just going to keep cutting. I think we'll just get back to you when we get it all out. It's going to be a mess. Alright, updates. Pulled out a whole mess of spaghetti here. The old fuse block. All of this cluster, I think, is pretty much going to go away. Well, not go away, but not going to worry about wiring it too much. Not going to use an amp gauge. Probably leave the vacuum gauge just because. But these 3 is an ammeter, oil pressure, and coolant temp. I think I'm just going to go get one of those little cheapy 3-gauge clusters and wire that in. This is the intermittent wiper interface, which we can try to hook back up. Again, I'm not too concerned about it at the moment. I'm not sure what this driving computer thing does. I believe there's like a magnet on the drive shaft that gives you your speed and calculates some stuff for you, but we have a mechanical speedo, so I'm not, again, too concerned with it. This whole mess of switches and all that crap's going to come out. Headlight switch, of course, we'll use, and the wiper switch, of course, we'll use. Other than that, this has a leaking heater core, so I'm not too concerned with making the heater work. Did some research online, could not find an actual heater core that's reproduced. So I'm not going to worry about wiring it so much right now unless we can actually find one. It'll probably end up getting like a little electric heater or something. We'll have to figure out what we're making work, what we can make work for that. Other than that, like trailer brake controller, I cut that off. Again, I'm not too concerned with it at the moment. This whole mess bundle here runs up the A-pillar. I gotta trace that stuff. There's wires hanging here. Not sure what those are for. Again, the backup lights are in the back of the cab here. And then there is, let's get a light. There's that mess of wires to run the wing, motor, and lights in it. Again, this has some kind of a window motor mounted into it to make this wing go up and down. I don't know if that's something we'll try to tackle in this video or not. Again, I'm just trying to get the necessities. Engine gauges, lights. So I'm thinking about being lazy. Surprise, surprise. These wires go into the dimmer switch and then also go out to run the headlight on the left side and then the turn signal on the left front. These 4 do the right front, but they run all along behind the dash here. And I don't really want to rip all this dash out and try to rip 4 wires out. This big green one, I'm not sure what it goes to. That was added, I believe. So I think I'm just going to tie in the front lights and these 4 here and these 4 here. And then this harness here will run the all the tail lights and stuff. We'll rip this one out. We'll go ahead and replace the wires run along the frame to actually run the rear lights. And then these, again, need a light. Oh, sorry. All these wires kind of sticking out through here run the engine stuff. So I think I'm going to get this thing up in the air. Rip out the tail light harness. Try to figure out where the where those backup light wires come into play. Kind of get bearings a little bit, and see about getting these fuses or this fuse block mounted. All right, put this thing up in the air. So this tape wrap harness here is the factory taillight harness, and then of course there's all this crap added. I don't know what was added and what goes where and what does what. So again, we're just going to cut everything out and start fresh. Yeah, I know the harness, like, I don't know what that thing is. I'm assuming it has something to do with trailer brakes. It's got a circuit breaker up there. We need a shift shaft seal too. Neat. All right. I know the tail light harness goes there and then ends up in the bed and runs to the back to the tail light. So we got to figure out where that goes. But more cutting and tearing, lots of fun. Exciting times. Pretty sure I left the cutters up there too.
Yeah.
I've got more.
You got quite a mess going.
Yep.
There's a whole rest of this thing to go.
I think I might go get the big like cable cutter deals. Hang on.
You got little oil footprints everywhere.
Yeah.
Ooh. It's a dual training cooler.
One's engine oil, maybe. Yep, one's oil. I got all the coolers. Alright, now what?
I feel like we're gonna have a lot of fun rerunning all of this.
No?
I'll watch. Here for moral support.
Figures. Why are you stuck?
He wanted to stay.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna keep cutting this crap out of here. Make that pile bigger. And we'll get back to you when we have more info or something fun happens. Okay, so the plot thickens. Got all the harness out that runs along to like the engine and starter and whatnot. The taillight harness that I thought went through down there actually goes through under the dash here, and it goes up the A-pillar and across the back, or across the top to the back. The problem is it's got these big connectors on it. So I'd have to pull this whole harness back, cut the connectors off, attach new wires to it, try to fish everything up through this A-pillar and around. Now, all this runs up in here and it's all protected and runs back here. I think I'm going to pull this panel off. make sure everything looks okay, and then it comes out into the bed. And runs along this side to run to the tail lights. Sorry, that's a stupid thing. So I think I'm going to do like I plan on doing the front harness, and just connect it under the dash and leave all this existing wire here. So that being said, so that's again this harness here. So we have left and right brake. There should be backup lights. There should be fuel sending unit. I'll have to look, see what all is there, but these 3 wires here, the brown actually runs up to the cab lights, and then this is hot and ignition source for the aftermarket radios up in here. So I think we're going to see about figuring out how to mount this fuse block and start hooking up some wires. What do you think? Sure. We still gotta clean off all the stuff on the actual engine itself.
Yeah,
I didn't disconnect any of this stuff yet. You what?
I don't want
I don't either. It doesn't look like a good time.
to.
Sure. You pull the wires out of it. All right, let me go get the fuse block and so we can figure out for mounting. All right. So this is the new fuse block. Needs to mount up in here somehow. The other one was bungee corded to this bracket. I'm not even sure what this bracket is or for. So I think I'm just going to take these 3 screws out. This has nuts and bolts in it. It also came with just some regular screws, which is how most GMs are attached anyway. So I think I'm going to take this bracket out and just screw it to the firewall. Call it good enough. Can you help somehow?
Oh, there's brackets.
I'm going to need a different size. Be right back. Wonder how many steps I get in walking back and forth to the toolbox. You're probably right. Get the size.
I hope so.
Okay.
Yay.
So then, put these guys out.
And save them for something else.
Yep.
Like decorating the floor.
All right. I'll take this. Figure out a spot. You know I want the wiring going up. Something like that-ish. I do want it tucked up in there a little bit. Now, we'll just self-tap through the front, or through the... Nope. Why would we do that? Nope. Drill bit time. More steps. Feel like 1/8 inch would be right, but ain't got one. And that bit doesn't do anything.
I think there's an 1/8 inch over in that one by the drill.
Too
bit.
far away.
We broke like 3 1/8 inch drill bits in one day.
That's better. All right. Now.
So how do you go the next one?
I'm hoping this drill bit will be long enough to go through. It's not going to be, but I'm hoping. Nope. So we're going to guess right there.
Screw to Marshall?
Good. Well, it's crooked. There's no planning. You should know that.
I don't even know what that
Have it back? Thank you. Okay, mounted.
is. Yay, look.
Are we done?
Pretty. Nope. There's still all this to do.
All right.
And some carpal tunnel.
Dash.
Don't forget to dash your carpal tunnel.
See what I deal with? Wonder if I should unhook all this crap. Kind of scared too.
I'm scared since you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Braver than I am. But if you're going to peak plant it there, doesn't mean you know together.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I'm just going to change the location here a little bit. Maybe. Maybe. So these actually have to come this way. All right, well, we're in it now.
I'm just going to close my eyes and look it over.
Go for it. That's what I'm doing.
You're closing your eyes while cutting.
All right, it's about to get ugly. About to.
I'm scared. What are you doing?
Cutting the zip ties. So since these wires are tied in here, but they actually have to go the other direction. What are you doing over here?
Light just
Oh my
around.
goodness. Let's pull
Decided it liked it better over here.
this white one out. Please don't tangle, please don't tangle, please don't tangle. It's tangling. Oh Lord. Oh, yeah. Mine too. All right, there we go.
Got a door puzzle situation over there.
Okay. All right, so that one out. What is this wire anyway? Dome light, which we don't even have.
You might have one eventually.
Yep, I'm gonna coil this stuff up. But, all right, so the rest of these, we should have. My glasses on.
Okay.
All right, back with working eyeballs. All right, so left turn. I guess I didn't explain this, but good thing about the painless harnesses is it's written. I don't know how well that shows up, but it's written where everything goes. So this one says tail section, left turn, and brake. So that one we want. This one says something.
Read the next section.
Brake, light, power. Don't know what that means. Probably from the switch, I imagine. We'll have to look at the book. I haven't actually opened the instruction booklet yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Reverse switch output. Things are going great out there. Dome light ground. Yep. Mm-hmm. Could probably use this for a power light or power wire to run up to that wing stuff, maybe. What?
What? Looks like a ball of spaghetti. Like that ball your grandma used to give you to unwind of her yarn when she was crocheting.
I think I had that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You had a crochet thing.
All right. Dome light, power, dome light, ground. Those over here out of the way. What else we got? Right turn and brake. Fuel gauge. Fuel gauge we need. And there should be tail light. Okay. So these wires are going to go to these wires. And I did buy the harness that has, they're all gene color coded. So, should be able to just hook these to these. Good morning. So I spent a little time this morning kind of reading through some stuff, kind of getting my bearings, kind of got everything separated. So this is, everything for kind of dash and whatnot. Ignition switch, headlight switch, wipers, that kind of stuff. This I separated. This will actually go to cluster. This is dimmer switch, which we're going to work on dimmer switch and headlights next. And then this is our engine section. Now I was thumbing through some stuff. So like when you get to dimmer switch, if you have a floor mounted dimmer switch, maybe helpful to reroute these wires. Exit the bottom of the fuse block. The fuse block is not being mounted above the switch on the firewall, which is where we're at. So this would normally come out and go to the column if you had a column style dimmer switch. We don't. We have floor mounted. So I'm just going to zip tie this back along here. We're going to run it down this edge, down to our dimmer switch. The kit does come with a new connector and new terminals, which is handy. Other than that, we're going to end up having, sorry about the lights there. The engine harness has the headlight wires ran through it. Some of them are going to go across and connect to these guys, which run to the passenger side, similar to this. And then we'll have to rewrite the ones that go for the driver's side back this direction. Okay, I got this dimmer switch wiring kind of loosely ran over here. I think what I'm going to do, you have a power in from the headlight, which is a blue wire, and then a high and low beam. So when you push the switch, it just directs power from this wire to one of these two. Since the left side headlight's here, I'm just going to tie these together to run the left side headlight. Then this harness would normally run, let's see, dark green and light green. No. Excuse me, tan and light green would run out to your headlights at the front of the vehicle down here. Run out to your headlights and split off and go to the two different headlights, as well as the park light signal. So I'm going to cut these off and wire these in to run the passenger side headlight. And the driver's side headlight will be ran right off the dimmer switch. That being said, the park light will need to hook up on this side and that side, and we'll have to fish out the left side turn signal. One of these should be park light and one should be turn signal for the front marker. So I'm going to start with the dimmer switch. I have these like ratcheting style crimpers. They work pretty good. You can use regular crimpers. Doesn't really matter. Where are the wire strippers at? There they are. Can be a little tricky getting multiple wires into one of these terminals, especially when you throw them on the ground. I see it though. No promises. All right, which one do we want here? I don't either. I'm just going to guess this one. Come on. There we go. I don't know how well that shows, but it crimps the wire and the insulation. I'll get my other terminal here. So that's that one. Then we're going to do the same thing with the tan wires here. Probably going to need to get the jumper box back out so we can figure out which wires park light and which wires turn signal.
Okay.
Not yet. Figure we'll hook up what we can hook up, what we know, and then we'll go from there.
I did put it back in though.
The jumper?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Which one did I use? I already forgot.
I don't know. Pay attention.
Should be that one.
Try not to fall in the little hole between the wheel and
Okay. That one crimped a little better. All right, now where's my other? There it is. So then the blue wire is power in. It's going to be by itself.
Is that better?
Well, it's in my face, but yeah.
Is that better? Just blending?
Come on. Would you work with me? And now that battery's dying.
Well, it's gonna have to be.
All these batteries laying around all these batteries laying around. 3 Milwaukee chargers. Batteries are always dead. Okay, if you come over here. Instructions are pretty good. So headlight dimmer switches. Obviously, we have a GM4 mounted, so it tells you exactly what to put where. There we go. All right. Tie all this up a little bit neatly. Probably tape it, but that's dimmer switch. All right, so now we're going to take
Another bundle.
that same light green wire, that same tan wire, which should be these two. And again, we can check that because they're all marked somewhere. Okay. Headlight high beam, headlight low beam. Before the brake, it says dimmer switch, which was down there. So I'm going to snip these off of here. We don't need these. Okay. I'm just trying to untangle it currently. All right, there's purple on both sides. I'm assuming that's the park light, because then there's a darker blue and a lighter blue, which match our dark blue and light blue for our 2 turn signals. So we need to hook up the dark blue as well as I know we mentioned yesterday we weren't sure what this heavier green wire goes to. That's actually the horn, so we hook that up as well. So I think all of these, with the exception of, we're going to wait on the purple for a minute because that is, again, park lights that we need to run a wire back to this side. But these are ones we can all hook up. Front lights section cooling fan. All right, so we don't have an electric fan currently. So this one is all tangled again.
What was the toggle switch?
It does run a fan, but I don't believe it has a relay or anything, and we've got to kind of figure that out because I'm not sure what we're doing about that radiator currently. So if you didn't watch the last videos, this has a radiator up front, and then they have an auxiliary radiator in the back, and that one has a fan that ran off of one of these toggle switches. That auxiliary radiator leaks, like constantly dripping. Previous owner, whoever built this or whatever, obviously used this thing for towing and whatnot, which we don't plan on doing. So we might end up just bypassing that secondary radiator altogether. I don't know. I'll have to look into it and see if that's something we can get conveniently or not.
If we do, we can get rid of all those pipes.
Yeah. I have no desire to. I want to keep this thing as original as possible, just because it's so kind of cool. But that being said, let's take out some of the moving parts that aren't really necessary, like an auxiliary radiator if we're not going to use it. Now, I'm not against swapping that out for a gooseneck ball and dragging the gooseneck trailer around just for the fun of it. But
I'm not sure that this
I'm not going to drag a car home with this when we have the dually.
Yeah.
It would be cool to find some kind of a cool old school trailer and put behind it. But yeah, nothing super heavy.
We got 3 or 4 cables in here somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's made a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to spend a few minutes hooking all these together, with the exception of the park light, because we got to run that the other direction. And I'm going to probably be fighting through the steering wheel. And rather than teaching you guys some new cuss words, I'm just going to get this knocked out real quick. All right, so I got those hooked up. Again, high and low beam, right turn signal, that's the horn wire. So I think we decided the purple wire, since there's one on each side, is the marker light. But we also have to run one to here, so I cut a section off of this wire. So I think we're just going to tie those together to that park light and fish this one down to this corner. And that'll feed both sides. I mean, technically, you should probably like solder this. It's not the best idea to put 2 terminals in or 2 wires in one butt connector, but I've done it. I haven't had issues. I'm just going to do it again because it's easier. Oh, notice how the steering wheel's not in the way anymore.
Got tired of the fight.
Yep. Well, can only beat on your chest bone so long before you get tired of it. Okay, so that should be... Oh, a slider now. Losing my mind. All right. That should be all the rear lights and front lights hooked up, which is probably the least important.
What did we need to do?
We were going to test which ones were which, but I figured it out.
Okay.
Oh, we're not done.
Oh.
Because I should have ran the left turn signal with that as well. So I'm going to do the same thing. This blue turn signal wire, left turn signal wire, needs to route down to this side as well. And then we'll move on to, I don't know, engine maybe? Okay, I don't remember really where we left off. I believe I said something about working on the engine harness. I got this all kind of buttoned up, kind of tied up. This is our dash lights and cluster and oil temp and coolant temp and all that good stuff. This wire here I coiled up. It's going to get tucked in here and just tied away. That's for cooling fan to run a relay, but we don't know if we're doing that yet. I was going to do the engine stuff, but I decided to kind of tidy this interior up before we move to that. All these wires are kind of bundled together. So if you read through this, this is all headlight switch. That's all that we'll need, of course. This one has wiper. The blue is the power to the wipers, which we'll need that, of course. Heater switch we don't need. And cooling fan switch power we also don't need, which would be like fan motor. This one, AC compressor turn on, and the something else for cooling fans. Again, we have a mechanical fan. We're not going to worry about that. These will get tied up and stored away. We went through all the trouble of making sure our backup lights and everything worked and were wired in, which is where these 2 wires would go. They would go to a reverse switch, but there's not a reverse switch on this vehicle at all that I can find. So we're not going to worry about that. I may, because this panel has toggle switches in it. I may just run the backup lights on a toggle switch because I can come off of this one and come in to the bed, and I might put a light back in this dark hole in case we want to store something back here. Also went to the store and got a set of mechanical gauges to replace our other ones. These are just the cheapy ones. We have coolant temp, battery voltage, oil pressure. I did get the brass or copper line for the, it's copper, the copper line for the oil pressure. Do not use the plastic ones that come with it. They're going to break. They're going to spill oil everywhere or cause an engine fire. Don't use them. Other than that, we have ignition switch and turn signal switch. We had to order a turn signal switch. The horn was going off every time we touched it, and if you can see right here, it's actually broken. So went ahead and ordered one, so I'm not going to worry about hooking up turn signals yet. That stuff will be here tomorrow. That being said, I'm going to try to get this gauge cluster mess back together if I can, which probably start with taking that other stuff apart.
You want to do it on the bench or the park or the table?
Yeah, we'll probably take that stuff over there and put the gauges in it, and kind of get a little sub harness built, because each of those, each of those has a like a dash light we got to hook up, and I think the only other power to the one will be the voltmeter, which should just need an ignition wire, which we have in this mess of stuff somewhere. So pause for a second. We're going to move this stuff over the bench and start building the sub harness. All right, we're going to get started on our gauge harness here. Took all the old junk out, got our new gauges mounted, other than the vacuum gauge I left, of course. I did leave one toggle switch in case we want to run the reverse lights off of it. And then when we get to the car, we'll have to wire up the headlight switch and the wipers. On this side, so the actual like factory gauges, all these warning lights, I don't know how well it's showing up. There we go. All those warning lights, I'm not going to worry about hooking up at all. I'm not too concerned with it. They're for temperature and oil pressure and that kind of stuff, which we have gauges for now. So I'm not too concerned with it. So we got the tack stuff to hook up, which is fairly straightforward. Remember, we labeled it all. These will be instrument lights as well as this one. So we'll have to hook those two as well as this one I marked with an L. Those all run our instrument lights, as well as instrument lights over here. Left and right turn signal, high beam indicator, and then this is our fuel gauge. We'll have to hook up an ignition source, and then the actual gauge will hook up to the ground side. Over here, we'll put this in a coolant port, hook up an oil line, and one side of this will be ground, and the other side will just be an ignition source. That will give us our voltage. And this is that wiper delay that was already installed that I should not have cut off, but I did. So we'll have to rehook those wires up. And as far as this driving computer thing, I ripped all that stuff out. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to leave this in place. But it's not going to actually do anything. So first things first, you hold that or put it on the tripod or whatever you want to do. I think I'm just going to kind of, so all these white wires will be illumination and all the black wires will be ground. The vacuum gauge light is already grounded over here, so I think I'm just going to ground these three and this one to this with it, and then we'll hook all these together. Excuse me. And then we'll run a pigtail out, so when we hook it up, we can run a pigtail out from this one as well. I know it's kind of confusing, but It makes sense in my little pea brain. Okay. So we have an ignition source that will actually have to tie to this guy. We have a ground and illumination. That's a start. White is illumination, red is ignition, black is ground. We have our switch in for our reverse lights if we decide to use it. We got to figure out our wiper delay, our actual wiper switch, our headlight switch. On this side, again, from the other harness, we'll hook up the high beam indicator, left or right turn, ignition source there, tack signal, illumination, fuel sending unit, and we ran another ground for that. So I think we'll start with getting this side hooked in. We got to figure out the wipers and headlight switch and all that. This is not cooperating. I'm going to try taking these screws out, see if I can lift the dash a hair. Oh, that's crunchy. All right. Oh, before we do that, we need to hook up a new vacuum line up.
It just looks like this piece of it. I have a screwdriver over here. Round up a little bit.
Okay. So, should have a whole mess of headlight, which basically we need to, cut off all of that and hook it all up. And again, this one is AC stuff we don't need.
That'll get rolled up with the...
That'll get tied up over here along with the fan control. That can go over there. And then the only thing out of this that we need is the wiper. And then, can you grab that booklet? So I need to figure out this came with terminals. We should be able to just wire these terminals in. Just like that.
Okay.
But where's the, oh, the blue's the, what's the blue? Why is there a blue wire? Dimmer switch, power. Dimmer switch, power. It shows it as a black wire on here. It's interesting.
The black wire.
1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so that's what we need. The black is dome white, which we don't currently have. So if we go get a bunch of terminals, we just re-terminal it.
You still have those pliers with them?
They're on the bed.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to keep following this diagram on where they go into this connector. She's going to go swap a battery, and I'm going to drop that on the floor, and we'll be back in a minute. All right, so all that's kind of dialed in. She reminded me we hooked up the oil. I had to pull this back out, hook up the oil line, so we did that real quick. Gonna start hooking this gauge set up. I tied off the stuff we don't need: oil pressure, temp, that kind of stuff. Those are the bulbs and stuff we took out of here. Decided not to use because we're running gauges. Good morning. So I stayed out a little bit last night and buttoned up the dash. Got all that hooked back up, all that installed. I think we're going to wait on ignition switch and turn signal switch because I got a couple hours before our new turn signal switch comes in, so we'll do that a little bit later. I did go ahead and run our engine wire harness down through the I don't know, doghouse, I guess you call it, as well as vacuum line for that vacuum gauge. Went ahead and ran a new line for that. The copper is obviously the oil pressure sending unit, and to the right of that is our coolant temp. So there's kind of a hole. I got the car kind of up in the air, but everything kind of came up along here and then came up through this way. And I looked around underneath. I didn't really see a better way to run it back behind, so we're just kind of trying to mimic that best we can. So let's get this thing up in the air. We have to try to fish those wires up, probably bring it back down and pull them through or whatever. And see if we can get these wires ran. Okay. So again, we got our wire harness, vacuum, coolant temp, and oil is laying up here. Hopefully all this stuff reaches. Basically, let's see if I can show this. Got everything ran through holes there next to the dirt dauber. I got to push them through that hole right above the radiator there. Gonna be a little fun, I think. Not really. Okay, before I do that, excuse me. Before I did that, I did separate out. These are the brake light power output, or brake light power, and then the output to the brake lights. Those we need to wire into this brake light switch here. So I did separate those. The rest of these can run back, I believe. I'll double check, but pretty sure those are all engine. All right. Coolant might be a snug fit oil as well, but I think we can make this work. All right, everything's fished through. I think we'll go back under again. Look up that brake switch real quick. Kind of zip tie those up and these wires and vacuum hose and all that stuff up. And hook up the engine. Okay. Got that all tied up neatly. I did reroute the harness to go around that bracket. And then hooked up the brake light switch. I didn't have any like bullet style connectors like these use. So I had to reuse the old ones. That's all right. Should be fine. So I'm gonna drop this thing back down again for the 500th time. All right, got everything zip tied to the choke cable here that doesn't work. Just gonna run everything along. Like I said, probably just put a clamp underneath in the middle here somewhere. We've got to drop down some of these wires here. Have to drop down to the alternator. And then back to the starter and around to the coil. So I'm going to kind of separate these out, see what's what. And again, a couple of these we're not going to use. We decided against, or I decided against the oil pressure and coolant temp light since we're running gauges. So those we'll set aside. We won't cut them off. We'll just coil them up over here somewhere so that we can use them in the future if we want. Again, they're coiled up behind the dash. What are you guys doing over there? What happened? This guy here is actually the oil pressure sending unit, and then we're going to tie into the metal line sticking out the side. So technically we could hook the oil light up if we wanted to. You guys turn your head on me. Tired of hearing me talk, I guess. I don't blame you. All right, so I believe blue and green should be temp gauge and oil pressure. So these two we'll set aside. Purple should be our tach wire, the small purple rather. What is this? AC compressor. We won't be using that. So we should have two of these. I believe this red and white one. Go down to the voltage regulator. Yes. So those need to run down right here. The alternator's in the front and the regulator's right next to it. I believe I got to double check the book. I think this goes direct to the alternator. We got to hook in a main fuse as well. Be right back. All right. This is our main fuse that we need to install. So the way this works is we hook a wire either to the battery or the starter. Goes into one side of our fuse. The other side goes out to the alternator output. The other side is the big red wire in that harness, which is B plus power to the entire fuse block. So this protects the entire vehicle. Obviously, these fuses protect all your circuits. This fuse protects the entire vehicle. So we're going to take this guy, hook it to the starter and to one side of this fuse, Well, the leftover is going to go from the other side out to our alternator, and then the big red wire will also go out, hooked to the alternator output side, if that makes any kind of sense. You can hook this to obviously battery or starter. I'm going to go with starter because our starter and our alternator are on the same side of the vehicle. Battery's on the other side. Just make it more convenient. So we need to find a place to put this and take this stuff with us. See if we can get this stuff hooked up. Set this stuff over here. Break that. All right, back inside here, we have our 2 voltage regulator wires, and then that's the B plus again. That's going to go to that main fuse. So we need to drop these down here, which is where alternator and voltage regulator is. We have a tack wire that's got to go to the coil. Ignition's got to go to the coil, and then the other big purple is our starter wire. So all that being said, we're going to drop these 3 down, run these 3 to the back, drop the big purple down back by the starter, and get this crap hooked up. Okay, I jumped ahead just a little bit here. This is what I kind of came up with. Let's see if I can kind of show you a little bit. So I mounted the main fuse up next to where our voltage regulator mounts. The one smaller red wire is the one that powers the fuse block. The other one is ran over alternator charge wire. So these 2 wires I need to wire into the voltage regulator. And I think from the top of the fuse, I'm going to come out sideways, connect to these wires here, or tie to those wires. And I think I'm going to run it up and across and down with our starter wire, because this is shift linkage, this is throttle, park brake, a lot of moving parts here. I don't really want the main wire near moving parts if I can keep from it. So I think we'll just run it up, across, and bring it down with our starter wire here. We'll have to figure out a way to tie this stuff, because that is the throttle lever there. So let me finish hooking this stuff up. I'll get our main wire hooked in and routed to the top and see what we can come up with. Okay, that should be alternator all finished. I got the main wire ran up with our other alternator wires there. Went ahead and put some loom on them since they're running past the engine. Couldn't really record it, unfortunately. The camera only fits where it fits, and it don't fit where my hands are. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that main power wire ran and tied in with our other loom, dropped down by the battery, or excuse me, by the starter. And we'll get that stuff hooked up. And that should be everything under the car. Other than I'll probably go ahead and do new battery cables. We'll see. All right, I got the oil pressure and coolant and all the topside stuff hooked up here. Turn our attention to the turn signal switch. Came in, looks correct. The issue is, hold that. It came with a new style connector, and it came with a deal to attach it to our old style connector, but I didn't see anywhere in our kit where it came with terminals in order to put these into a connector. So I would have to basically de-pin all of these, pull them out, put them into a connector. Anyway, I'm not doing any of that. The point is, I'm just going to butt connect all this crap because I don't care that much. I don't see us pulling this column out for any reason whatsoever. Saying that, we'll probably have to pull it out next week, just because. This should pull up. Did I not need to take that screw out? Where's the new one? Yeah, I did. Okay. Didn't I just say, oh, this comes out real easy? I lied. I'm not using you. Don't make me break you.
Oh, it's like the other Painless jammed in over here.
Yeah. And now it's not. Yeah. There's the other screw. Okay. So, get rid of that. Get rid of that. Now, in order to get this all through there, I'd have to depin all these anyway. All right, got all that buttoned up. Went ahead and hooked up the ignition switch. We did use a Painless universal one, which they give you clear instructions on how to wire that. It's just 5 connections, obviously. So did that real quick. So we got a working ignition switch now, which should be handy. So the only thing left we have wiring wise is hooking up the starter and the battery. But I decided I kind of want to throw the wing on it and hook those wires up and see what happens. So I got to find my bolts that I had. The idea, they're right here. I have some 5/16 bolts, so this wing is actually threaded. She's got some rubber washers that she's going to slide on the bolts when I stick them through. We're going to stick that up there and see if we can hook up those wires, and just, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I just want to see what it does. All right. Now we got to try to set that up there whilst getting the wires through the hole and lining up the screw holes. So probably need to not set it, well, we're gonna have to kind of. You want the wire side or you want this side?
I'm going with this side. I was just thinking maybe we put a couple blocks up here so that it's
To fish the wires through? I like that. 2 eyes enough?
Give it a step back behind it.
I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Because I can get
Can we might, I mean, we got lots of room. We can go up and over. That's the problem. Here, why don't you go set your side up there if you can. At least the front lip.
right where my hand is.
Yep. Can you get it up on that block or no? You're trying to shove me off.
Up against the stack, sorry.
Ugh. That was easy.
Stabbing me in the back.
Okay, so these wires to go through there. That one actually threaded. So did that one. Okay, so the shorter bolt was fine. Okay. Wing is officially bolted on for the first time, at least since we've had it. Just use some of this like thin rubber, cut 4 squares, punched a hole through it, use that as a washer for between the wing and the body. So we're gonna have to run power to it. It's got a power wire ran, it's got a big butt connector in the middle of it. I think I have something we can probably use to run a new hot wire, hook up what wires are existing, and I don't know. Let's just see what happens. So rather than rerun this wire, I've made the executive decision to hook this up. We don't even know if this wing works. So before I run a new wire, let's go ahead and just hook this up. I'm going to use a butt connector, 12 inches from the other butt connector, and a Scotch lock, which I absolutely despise using Scotch locks, but it's the most convenient. And like I said, we don't even know if this thing works. Figure we'll just hook it up, see what happens. Hopefully all these wires are long enough to reach. If not, I guess we'll get more butt connectors. So this thing's powered by some kind of a window motor, which is, I'm assuming, what the big main power wire goes to, this big red one. And then they powered the switch, just kind of teed off of that. So again, if this actually works, which I highly doubt, we'll figure out how we want to wire it later. Oh, I guess we don't need to do that if we're doing a Scotch lock. So will this reach into that? Kinda. It kinda will. If we go again, don't use Scotch locks. They're actually really, really bad for your wiring. But in a pinch, for what we're doing, I don't mind. Did we get it?
I cut out like a dozen of them, so.
Yeah. Oh, that's a tough wire. Yeah, pretty sure that just broke. Huh. Yeah, but the rest of it's not.
Yeah.
Alright, well, there's not really enough length here to do anything else, though. Alright, shoot.
Another butt connector.
Yeah, but to what? You can't put this in with the butt connector there. It'd be... I don't have a butt connector big enough for both of those, I don't believe.
I never realized that that's where they seamed it.
Yeah. Well, what we can do, though, could just strip this and wire it to the battery and test it for testing purposes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to hook these wires up. These three should be left, right, brake and turn signal, and that should be tail. Those hooked to that, which probably isn't long enough either. Might just make it. I'm going to color match these ones, and I think I'll just strip this and hook it to the battery, and we still got the starter to hook up. And then we are done with this project. We got this all hooked up. So main battery, power to the fuse, starter signal. Just tied it to the main battery cable. And then up here, I don't know how well this shows up, but tied it off to the park brake cable. Should hopefully keep us out of the way of our throttle linkage. So I think all that's left is drop this thing down and slam a battery in it. See how many things I hooked up wrong. All right, so key on. Off.
Fuel thing's moving a little bit.
Fuel thing, is it? The fuel gauge actually work? That'd be cool.
Okay.
All right, so lights.
I have lights.
high beams, low beams, dash lights. That kind of has something. That one doesn't. That one kind of has something. We don't have a way to check like dome lights, but because we don't have one. I hear it clicking. We have a right side turn signal.
Yep.
We have a left side turn signal. Okay, so before we check all the lights and stuff, what else we need to check?
TV works. Oh, that's blinding.
Oops, sorry. Well, you have the switch. All right, so remember we hooked up the ignition and battery power to this stuff, so that works. Well, I mean, the lights come on. I don't know if it actually works. I'm pretty sure this didn't work before. Oh, it does.
Yeah,
But we got no speakers.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Ignition.
Nice.
All right, so starter all works, ignition all works. Runs like a champ. All right. Tap works. Oil pressure, fuel gauge. I don't think we're charging.
Alright. We're gonna scope ourselves out.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right, cool.
Better for this wing?
Well, let's check the other lights first.
Okay.
All right. Tail lights. Well, why don't you, what about above you?
Got him. 2 out of 3.
Left turn? Oh, wait, key on. Left turn?
Driver's side yet?
What about above you?
Nope.
Right?
Nope. That one, yes. Wing down.
What about backup lights? The doors are closed, or open, rather.
I think one of those worked before.
I think I can see it.
Neither of them work right now.
Really?
Oh, hold on. Do that again. Driver's side.
Oh, so all the switch is upside down. All right, cool.
Driver's side, no passenger side. So the passenger side running light on the wing doesn't work?
Okay, I'm sure we need to do a bunch of bulbs.
Yeah.
So I ended up just ripping the insulation off of this butt connector. Nothing. Hear anything clicking or anything?
No, but this plug is hanging out of the motor.
Oh, maybe we need that. I really haven't looked into here. No, it's hooked up. It's just all rotten. But, you know,
Is it relay?
who knows, right? Okay. I'm not sure what's supposed to do what. Well, that's unfortunate.
You know, this stuff is pretty corroded. It could be
Yeah.
cleaned up.
Who knows? We'll have to pull this stuff apart at a later date. This whole wing needs love, obviously. I can see daylight through several parts.
We got rust tools over here.
I think I pointed that out before. Maybe we'll look up this motor. Maybe we'll see if we can find a part number on it or something. Or we might have to, I don't know, redesign something. So cool. Ooh, we didn't check the cab lights. What else is there to check? I mean, most importantly, we have ignition. We have light circuits that work.
Yep.
Obviously, we need to go through and replace a bunch of bulbs and whatnot.
You got some lights that work on this. It's not totally not functional.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see this wing go up and down, though. I was looking forward to that. But, you know, that's the way she goes. We don't know how long this thing's been sitting, for sure.
And who knows, they could just be a break in a wire.
It could be that red wire right there that's not hooked to the battery. Maybe we should check that real quick. One moment, let me check that.
Because the lights are separate, right?
Yep. I heard something. Now you're crunching around though.
I can feel it that's off on the left.
That must be that relay.
Oh yeah, it is. I wonder if it's just a bad relay.
Well, it's clicking, which tells me. I would imagine that this motor is just stuck. Is this clicking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Originally, I thought it was here, but then I thought.
Well, again, with these crunchy connections. This also doesn't have a ground wire that I saw. I think it's just trying to ground through the bolts. Might have something to do with it. I don't know.
Do a little troubleshooting.
Yep. Let's see. Where is it? There it is.
I mean, we spray this thing down. That might help.
All right.
I'm just gonna say, I feel like maybe we should take these off and maybe the cables are frozen.
Who knows? All right. I'm calling it a win, and I'm tired.
Started.
It starts, it runs. Like I said, most importantly, the actual vehicle part is working. This guy, obviously, the wing itself obviously needs a whole bunch of work. Anything else we need to check in? I want to check the cap lights, just because.
Down and check the public,
Old knees. Oh yeah, that feels good.
yeah, I'm not doing that. Ooh. We're going on to the. I don't know if we're gonna. Oh, we got 2 of the
205.
4.5.
All right. Well, obviously, we're looking. We're searching for replacements of those. Anyway, but we got wipers working. Obviously, the switch was on for the wiper delay, so that appears to be wired at least partially correct. We got headlights, park lights, some of the marker lights. We got to go through and know a whole bunch of bulbs and whatnot. We got turn signals. We got a horn mystery. We got to figure out. We got a wing mystery. We got to figure out. That's okay.
Yeah, a whole lot of that.
And yeah, a whole pile of mess. So, all new wiring went from that garbage. At least now we know what we're working with. We have a bunch of more parts for this car, van, truck, thing, whatever you want to call it. This thing's getting a tune-up real soon. Gonna fix some leaks, gonna fix some plug wires, some misfires, a few other odds and ends, and this thing's getting a makeover. I've got a stack of tires and wheels for it. I'm excited to get those on it. We've got, well, I'm not gonna give it away. You're just gonna have to come back and see. So other than that, you have anything to add?
No, thanks for watching.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it very much. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff for the algorithm. I really, really appreciate it. And we will see you guys next time.